Today, I'm here with Yuval Noah Harari, a great historian and best-selling author of a number of books. His first book, *Sapiens*, a brief history of humankind, kind of chronicled and did an analysis going from the early days of hunter-gatherer society to now how our civilization is organized. And your next two books, the Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow, and 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, actually tackle important issues of technology and the future. And that's, I think, a lot of what we'll talk about today. Mm-hmm. But, most historians, only tackle and analyze the past. But, but a lot of the work that you've done has had really interesting insights and raised important questions for the future. So I'm really glad to have an opportunity to talk with you today. So Yuval, thank you for joining for this conversation.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I think that if historians and philosophers cannot engage with the current questions of technology and the future of humanity, then we aren't doing our jobs. And we are not just supposed to chronicle events, centuries ago. All the people that lived in the past are dead. They don't care. The question is what happens to us and to the people in the future. Yeah.
All right, so all the questions that you've outlined, where should we start here? I mean, I think one of the big topics that we've talked about is around this dualism around whether, with all of the technology and progress that has been made, are people coming together and are we becoming more unified, or is our world becoming more fragmented? Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious to start off by how you're thinking about that, and I mean that's probably a big area. We could probably spend most of the time on that topic.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the long span of history, then it's obvious that humanity is becoming more and more connected. If thousands of years ago, planet Earth was actually a galaxy of a lot of isolated worlds with almost no connection between them, so gradually people came together and became more and more connected until we reach today when the entire world for the first time is a single historical, economic, and cultural unit. But connectivity doesn't necessarily mean harmony. The people we fight most often are our own family members and neighbors and friends. So it's really a question of, are we talking about connecting people or are we talking about harmonizing people? Connecting people can lead to a lot of conflicts. And when you look at the world today, you see this duality, for example, in the rise of walls, which we talked about earlier when we met, which for me is something that I just can't figure out what is happening, because you have all this new connecting technology and the internet and virtual realities and social networks, and then one of the top political issues becomes building walls, and not just cyber walls or firewalls, building stone walls. Like the most Stone Age technology is suddenly the most advanced technology. So how to make sense of this world, which is more connected than ever, but at the same time is building more walls than ever before?
Yeah, well, I think one of the interesting questions is around whether there's actually so much of a conflict between these ideas of people becoming more connected and this fragmentation that you talk about. I mean, one of the things that it seems to me is that in the 21st century, in order to address the biggest opportunities and challenges that humanity has, right? So I think it's both opportunities, spreading prosperity, spreading peace, scientific progress, as well as some of the big challenges, right? Addressing climate change, making sure that on the flip side, that diseases don't spread and there aren't epidemics and things like that. We really need to be able to come together and have the world be more connected. But at the same time, that only works if we as individuals have our economic and social and spiritual needs met. And so one way to think about this is in terms of fragmentation. But another way to think about it is in terms of personalization, right? And I just think about when I was growing up, one of the big things that I think that the internet enables is for people to connect with groups of people who share their real values and interests. And it wasn't always like this, right? Before the internet, you were really tied to your physical location. And I just think about how when I was growing up, I grew up in a town of about 10,000 people, and there were only so many different clubs or activities that you could do. So I grew up, like a lot of the other kids, playing Little League baseball. And I kind of think about this in retrospect. It's like, I'm not really into baseball. I'm not really an athlete. So why did I play Little League when my real passion was programming computers? And the reality was that growing up, there was no one else really in my town who was into programming computers. So I didn't have a peer group or a club that I could do that. It wasn't until I went to boarding school and then later college where I actually was able to meet people who were into the same things as I am. And now I think with the internet, that's starting to change, right? And now you have the ability to not just be tethered to your physical location, but to find people who have more niche interests and different kind of subcultures and communities on the internet, which I think is a really powerful thing.